Zohran Mamdani has done it again. Remember how he earned plaudits even from his detractors for not cowering down to Donald Trump when he faced a hostile press with the most powerful man on earth? Just a couple of days later, he was asked by an American media outlet about his fascist comment for Trump. And the New York mayor-elect didn't bat an eyelid before firmly replying that he stood by his comments. In other words, he still believes that Trump is fascist. NBC News' Kristen Welker then asked Mamdani if he still believed that Trump was a threat to democracy. This time again, he was even more forthcoming, as he made it clear that he stood by every comment that he made during the campaign. Watch this fascinating clip here.
NYPD would be the ones to do so.
In that press conference with President Trump, a reporter asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past. You were about to answer, then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, "That's okay, you can just say yes. It's easier than explaining it." So, Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes.
So you do?
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement, about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe. And that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
I think that some of your supporters would be curious to know. You say you stand by your past statements that, yes, he's a threat to the democracy. How do you square working with someone who you still think is a threat to the democracy?
I think working for the people of New York City demands that you work with everyone and anyone, and that you always look to find those areas of agreement while not overlooking the places of disagreement. And I think this was something that came up in our meeting. We spoke about immigration. We spoke about the fact that in New York City, we have sanctuary city policies that allow for the city to work with the federal government on around 170 serious crimes. The concern for so many New Yorkers comes about anything beyond that. And I spoke about the importance of us being able to protect New Yorkers, and some of the incidents that we see, they do not do that.
As I said before, this speaks volumes of Mamdani's leadership. He could have easily taken shelter behind context or nuances to wriggle out of this tricky situation. But he remained steadfast while standing right next to Trump during their joint press conference. And he refused to perform a U-turn even during the NBC interview. Such conviction and clarity in his thoughts make him an incredibly powerful and intimidating character. No wonder even Trump wasn't prepared to risk insulting him. So he decided to suck up to Mamdani. You can watch my video here to understand what I'm talking about. In fact, Mamdani has been consistent with his views about his political rivals, including Trump. This is how he had reacted when he appeared on pro-Trump media outlet Fox News just before the elections.
I want to take this moment because you spoke about President Trump, and he may be watching right now, and I just want to speak directly to the president, which is that I will not be a mayor like Mayor Adams who will call you to figure out how to stay out of jail. I won't be a disgraced governor like Andrew Cuomo who will call you to ask how to win this election. I can do those things on my own. I will, however, be a mayor who's ready to speak at any time to lower the cost of living. That's the way that I'm going to lead this city. That's the partnership I want to build, not only with Washington, D.C., but anyone across this country. I think it's important because too often the focus on the needs of working-class Americans, working-class New Yorkers are put to the side as we talk more and more about the very kinds of corrupt politicians like Andrew Cuomo that delivered us into this kind of crisis.
It's a shame Mamdani can never become the US president under existing US laws, which only allow a US-born citizen to occupy the White House. We need people like Mamdani in the White House to get rid of genocidal maniacs in the settler colony of Israel. Mamdani was bold enough to say on Trump's face how Israel was still violating international humanitarian laws by abusing American tax dollars.
Mr. Mamdani often talks about New York City being covered by international law, that they will follow international law, doesn't often talk about the U.S. Constitution. What is your response to that?
Well, I don't know what you're referring to in terms it can be covered by international law, local law. It's covered by a lot of laws, but it's covered by U.S. law. Are you referring to anything in particular?
He just says that they're a city that endorses and enforces international law. Is that at odds with
No,
U.S.
I don't
law?
know. Would you want to? Do you want to respond to
Yeah,
that?
I think what I've shared with the president is our desire to not only follow the laws of our own city, laws that protect New Yorkers, but also a desire for consistency in our politics across the board. And that's something that we've talked about and something that I know many New Yorkers.
You are a peacemaker and you did a peace in all the 9 months
Yes.
around the world. I would like to ask Mr. Mamdani, you've accused the U.S. government of committing genocide in Gaza while President Trump was working on peace. Why that?
I've spoken about the Israeli government committing genocide, and I've spoken about our government funding it. And I shared with the president in our meeting about the concern that many New Yorkers have of wanting their tax dollars to go towards the benefit of New Yorkers and their ability to afford basic dignity. And what we see right now is we're in the 9th consecutive year of more than 100,000 school children being homeless in our city. And there's a desperate need not only for the following of human rights, but also the following through on the promises we've made New Yorkers. And I appreciated the meeting we had and the work that we can do.
Do you agree that President Trump did do a peace and he worked hard to make the peace because he worked hard to do the peace in the Middle East and everywhere? Do you agree with that?
I appreciate all efforts towards peace, and I shared with President Trump that when I spoke to Trump voters on Hillside Avenue, including one of whom was a pharmacist that spoke about how President Trump's father actually went to that pharmacy not too far from Jamaica Estates, that people were tired of seeing our tax dollars fund endless wars. And I also believe that we have to follow through on the international human rights, and I know that still today those are being violated, and that continues to be work that has to be done no matter where we're speaking of.
And as I speak, the Israeli psychopaths led by a convicted war criminal called Benjamin Netanyahu continue to make a mockery of international law. They have continued to drop American bombs on the defenseless population of Gaza by murdering children and babies. And these demonic cult members told us that they were slaughtering innocent people only to free hostages. Now what's the excuse? All hostages are free. And yet these sick and depraved souls are still not allowing the necessary aid materials to enter Gaza. Most food and other essential supplies are stuck outside the border of Palestine, including Jordan.
This is just one of a number of warehouses in Jordan packed full of aid, including tents, warm weather equipment, clothes, shoes, blankets, mattresses, as well as medical supplies and food. Now, according to the Jordanians, there are something like 6,000 trucks worth of aid being held in Jordan right now, which the Israelis are refusing to allow into Gaza. At the moment, so far, according to the Jordanians, a negligible number has been allowed into Gaza since March. All this aid, if you allowed even 200 trucks worth over a day, and the UN would like that be increased to 500 or 600, but even if you allowed 200 trucks a day, this would all be sufficient for the people of Gaza for the next month. And yet it's all being held here at various warehouses around Jordan. There is warehouse upon warehouse like this. This is full of medical equipment, including medicines and artificial limbs, with tens of thousands of, in this case, children who are in need of this help. There's also pain relief that's been turned back, paracetamol injections. there is such a need in Gaza for this, with the whole of the health infrastructure pretty much reduced to nothing. But amongst the equipment being held back, wheelchairs for the tens of thousands of people in Gaza who've been left amputees.
But Trump would tell you that he has achieved permanent peace in Gaza. He thinks everyone is as delusional as him. Israeli terrorists have also continued to bomb Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, with whom this rogue settler colony built on the stolen land of Palestinians reached the ceasefire many months ago. Now what's the provocation? Do you still need proof about Israeli thugs' genocidal ambition? The Israeli society is the most depraved society in the world. They don't represent Jews. So don't give me this nonsense that calling out their war crimes is tantamount to criticizing Jews globally. I have many Jewish friends here in the UK, and they are aghast by the fact that Israeli war criminals are trying to hijack the religion, thereby causing irreparable damage to Judaism. This explains the rapidly changing political reality for bloodthirsty Zionists, not just in the US, but across the Western world. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.